Hey everybody, welcome back to Project Happy Home. For those of you who are new here, welcome. I'm Tanya, Dr. Lawyer turned homeschooling mom of 3 kids ages 8, 5, and 3. My eldest, my 8-year-old, has ADHD, and my friend Danielle and I over at Danielle Gets It Done have been doing a series on parenting emotionally challenging children. So last week we talked about so many of the good things about having a child who is emotionally complex. And this week, though, we're going to talk a little bit more about the loneliness inherent in being the mom of a non-neurotypical child. I know that I've had days where I feel so incredibly lonely in this role because I feel that no one understands what it is to be the mother of an emotionally complex child, because it's different than being the father of one, it's different than being the grandparent of one, or the friend of one, or the friend of a mom of one. It is very, very different, and it is a very different place to be than being the mom of a neurotypical child. And I say this as the mom of 3 children, 2 of whom are definitely more neurotypical than the other. And I hesitate because there is so much to say about this. There are things that I feel I cannot share with anyone, not my husband, not my mother, not my best friends, because they wouldn't understand. There's such a fear of censure and judgment inherent in being the mom of an emotionally challenging child, whether it's because of SPD or autism or ADHD or what have you. Our children react to everyday common situations and difficulties and pleasures in such different atypical ways that I think the fear of judgment in how we handle that, whether it's a healthy way of handling it or a not healthy way, whether it's a human reaction or a very studied and practiced and experienced reaction, no matter what we're doing, I think we have this fear of judgment and censure. 1, because it is very hard to not feel like our children's behavior reflects upon us as a parent. And 2, because if we are responding more compassionately and gently and kindly than perhaps the parent of a neurotypical child would in reaction to, for example, a tantrum or a meltdown or what have you, we have that fear of judgment too. If we fly off the handle because this is the millionth inappropriate behavior that has happened that day, we have the fear of that censure as well. So it's almost like we can't win. If we act too compassionate and kind, we feel that people think, oh, well, of course they behave that way because look at them, they're not even disciplining that. If we behave inappropriately and fly off the handle because we've had just about as much as we can take that day, and that's the episode that our friend or relative or whatever sees, then we feel that censure where they look at us and they're like, oh, of course they behave that way. Look at how crazy the parent is acting. I think with that type of fear of judgment comes a lot of isolation because we're so guarded and on high alert when in company that sometimes we can come off as stilted and also not be able to interact as deeply and fully with our peers as we would want to, because one eye is always out looking at our child, trying to see where they are emotionally, if whatever they're doing, their interaction is going well. Do you need to step in? Do you not need to step in? So it makes things like play dates and playground days and encounters with big groups or parties, things like that, like really stressful. And we definitely pick and choose what we do and what we don't do based on how much stimulation I think my children can handle in a day. So you have this continuous battle you're fighting between letting your kid do all the things that normal kids should be able to do, and also recognizing their limitations and how to best scaffold them and guard them against overstimulation and just not putting them in situations that might bring out their worst behaviors. In an environment where you cannot best shield them and guide them through whatever emotional trauma they might be having. I have 3 children to manage, so there are lots of times when I have to handle the toddler and I don't have time to intervene for certain meltdowns that my son might be having. And that is a strain on me in a big group situation. So I do have to be realistic about that, and it can create a little bit of loneliness right there, because there are things that I do say no to because it doesn't work for our family at this time or on this particular day. And other people might think, well, why aren't they coming, or why don't they want to do this? But I know. And feeling like I can't fully explain why that is can be lonely in and of itself. One of the reasons that things like play dates and one-on-one friend encounters can be so difficult is because often our children can have a difficult time maintaining a really good friendship. And that is not to say that they're not very social or can't make friends easily, but to keep them can be a little bit more tricky. And for other people's parents to treat them with kindness and respect and patience when they might behave in a way that is not neurotypical in the face of some sort of disappointment or upset among children can be hard. And some parents of neurotypical children can be jerks about it, honestly. They assign any kind of atypical behavior to either bad parenting or just like a bad seed kind of kid. And they're very unwilling to work with your child and to be patient with your child and to understand that this is not going to be the same as every other child. You know, the same disciplinary tactics are not going to work. The same way of speaking is not going to work. And when the tantrum doesn't calm down, or when the meltdown doesn't calm down as fast as they would like it, they can be very judgmental and harsh with, if not your child, with you. And whether it's spoken or not, I think we all are intelligent enough to sense that. So things that might be really easy for the parents of neurotypical children to do, for example, exchanging one babysitter night for another, like I'll babysit your kids one night, you guys go out, you guys can babysit mine. I'm not really comfortable letting people babysit my children because I feel like they're not prepared for some of the things that might arise. That's a sort of self-imposed loneliness right there. It's necessary, but a little bit sad, right? I think another loneliness is just the advice you get, the well-intentioned but dumb advice you get from the parents of neurotypical children who just assume that you haven't read that great parenting book that came out, or you didn't see that episode of Oprah that said that if you do steps 1 through 3, everything will work out fine, or you should have watched Super Nanny last night, or whatever. Dumb, but well-meaning advice. There are certain people I don't want to associate with because I know that dumb but well-meaning advice is coming. I just know it. It's like lurking in the shadows. And so all of these things can create for a very, very lonely environment for the mom of a non-neurotypical child. Some of the things that we can do to alleviate this are, one, finding really good babysitters, because I think having a secure person or 2 or 3 or 5 on a list that can watch your children while you and your husband get out for like a date night, or just to relax, or where you get out by yourself just to read a book or whatever, or hang out in a coffee shop and work on your blog or anything, is really, really essential. And figuring out who really gets along with your child and who can play with them and interact with them in the way that makes them feel good about themselves is really essential. When we lived in Texas, for example, we had one college age, she was in high school at the beginning and then she went to college, babysitter who just had a wonderful way with my son and just really got along with him, and everything went swimmingly, and she never had things to say about how hard it was or anything, and he was always very happy to see her, and it all worked out. There are people who can relate to our children in a way that might even be better than we can, you know, that are just inherently, instinctively at ease with atypical behaviors, you know, that just roll with it and can play with them on their wavelength. So to find those people is really essential. We've just moved to North Carolina, so I'm in the process of finding those people myself, and I've been very lackadaisical about it because right now we have big old goose egg, 0 babysitters, so we have to find some. Another strategy that's really helpful is just to set a schedule with your spouse and with your family. Like, how much can you handle? You know, You need your own time to go out and be with friends and stuff like that, where you don't have to keep one eye open, where you can relax and enjoy yourself and be just a mom relaxing among other moms. That's really important. Another thing though that's really important is to find your tribe. Find other parents who have atypical or emotionally challenging children. Find other parents that are on that same wavelength, who can either roll with this like atypia, with this emotional like roller coaster that is our children, or other parents that are going through it themselves, because they will understand. They will not bat an eye when you react compassionately or appear to be flipping your lid, because they've been there and they've done that. And I have a couple good friends who are in that boat, and I cannot tell you how different it feels to go on a play date with them versus the parent of someone who's neurotypical, because I feel so at ease with how I parent with them. And it might not be the same way as that they parent, but I know that they don't hold judgment, because parenting an emotionally challenging child is such a unique and individual task. There have been a lot of children, by the way, who have ADHD who started to comment on some of these videos and my other ADHD videos, contradicting some of the things I've said, coming back and saying, well, all ADHD children are not like this, and you should be saying this, and you shouldn't say this. And I want to make it really clear, I don't think any child is like any other child, regardless of what letters we've assigned them. I very much believe that having any spectrum disorder or SPD or ADHD is part of a personality spectrum. That is not to say that our inherent personalities are erased by it, or that we each become a clone of each other because we have ADHD or SPD or autism. It's just to say it's another layer of personality. Every one of our children is unique. Every one of our children will respond differently to different parenting styles, to different stimuli, to different methods of discipline. I can only convey what I feel works for me. So that being out of the way, I was saying locate your tribe. Some of the best way to do this is online. Try to find channels like this one, YouTube moms, Instagram channels. Search hashtags, for hashtag SPD mom, hashtag SPD, hashtag ADHD, hashtag ADHD mom. You'll find other accounts, other people who are experiencing a lot of the same things as you. You can look into local support organizations. Like for ADHD, there's CHADD, CHADD, and they often create local support groups where you can go and meet other parents who are experiencing the same parenting journey as you, or at least a similar one. And that's one way to make friendships with other parents that may be more genuine and authentic, because you can share what you're actually going through, as opposed to this rosy view that we like to present to the world. Another good place is to go to the playground with your kid and watch who your kid gravitates to, who they get along with, how parents are parenting. Are there any other children who seem to be having, some curious types of behavior, other parents who seem like more on your wavelength with parenting, etc. Like, get out there and really do your research, because if we are always pretending to be the perfect parents that we're not, it's going to be really hard to find the people who really understand what goes on inside your house and inside your heart and mind. I think one of the hardest and most lonely things about being the mom of an emotionally challenging child is this idea in our heads of how it was supposed to be. And letting go of that idea is very hard and is hard won. And I think it's something you do every day, especially on your bad days, where you let go of this idea of how this relationship was supposed to be, how your child was supposed to be at this age, how you were supposed to be as a mother, Mary Poppinsing your way through the day with your apron and your sunshiny smile. I think accepting that this is your reality, and this is your beautiful child, and this is you meeting your beautiful child, and how you both are going to go on this journey together. How can you both support each other the best? Because that is a brand new person in the world that is changing and growing and reacting to you. And it is a challenge to let go of all your visions of perfection, all the dreams we held, and really embrace the here and now and think about how we can make this wonderful, and how we can make this better, and how we can always, always make them feel loved and give them that gift of being able to feel loved and to feel loving in return. Because really that is the most important thing. All of the rest is just commentary. So we will mess up, we will have our bad days, we will have our lonely moments. Let go of that idea of perfection, and I think it'll be easier to relate to other people, to be less ashamed of ourselves when we do things in public that might not be the norm, to be less ashamed of our children when they do things in public that might not be the norm, and just embrace our life for what it is. So I wish that for all of us. I'm certainly not saying it as someone who has achieved that. I really do think it's a daily reminder to ourselves to just be present in our lives, to accept this for what it is. This is your life. It is happening right now. Go out there, make friends, find your tribe, love your kid, do your best, forgive yourself, and have a good time. And that's the best we can do. I'm not going to sugarcoat it though. It can be very lonely. But I wish you the very best of luck in finding your tribe and finding a supportive group of people who understand you and where you're coming from and can toast you on your good days and hug you on your bad days and just be there for the next one. Thanks so much for giving me your time, you guys. I would love to hear about what you guys do to ease the loneliness. And as always, I wish you the very best day.